In 2010, Colorado engineers from URS Corporation and W.W. Wheeler and Associates began work on expanding the Zeigler Reservoir, the terminal reservoir for Snowmass Water and Sanitation District near Snowmass Village in Pitkin County, to increase reliability of the water supply by adding 230 acre-feet of raw water storage to meet the area's expanding water needs. The reservoir is located at the headwaters of the Brush Creek drainage just east of the divide between the Snowmass, Capitol Creek Basin, and Wood Creek Basin. It had no natural defined inlet channels or a natural outlet and was circular in shape as the result of a natural depression formed by ridges of glacial deposits. Expanding the reservoir involved removal of up to 2 feet of organic material, 5 feet of clay and peat, and up to 15 feet of silt. When complete, more than 44,000 yards of material was excavated. On October 16, 2010, Colorado engineers walked the site during the initial excavation. Little did they know they were walking straight into history and about to discover more than 4,800 prehistoric bones from Columbian mammoths, American mastodons, ground sloths, bison, and a host of animals dating back more than 43,000 years. It was a day on the job that changed their lives and pushed their expertise to manage an unprecedented and unexpected obstacle in completing this fast-track design project, which had an aggressive November 2011 completion date.
Back in 2003, Wheeler and Associates performed a water availability study for us to look at how much water would be available during a dry year scenario. We set a stewardship goal for Snowmass Creek so we wouldn't damage the creek during wintertime flows when flows are very low. Based on that water availability report, we decided to go ahead and move forward with storage, and we looked at a number of locations to develop a reservoir, and it seemed like Zeigler Reservoir was the logical place to go ahead and reconstruct a reservoir because of its proximity to our water delivery system. When we first purchased the reservoir was fairly small, shallow reservoir. It was only about 56 acre-feet. We needed far more storage than that. We were hoping to get 225 to 250 acre-feet, so we knew we were going to have to go and take out the material out of the bottom of the reservoir and then build a new dam to store that much water. And then we engaged some engineering firms to go ahead and design the dam for us.
My responsibility on the project was the geotechnical aspects of the project, so I was a responsible professional for bringing the project together.
As geotechnical engineer on the project, my responsibilities involved the geotechnical investigations, which we did at the start of the project, the design of the embankment and any earthworks involved, and then I was out there during construction to help with oversight and watching the contractor and ensuring design was being met. This dam site was unique in a number of ways, just with the geology of how the site was formed. Basically a large glacier moved down Snowmass Creek and came along to the reservoir, the Zeigler Reservoir dam site, and created, it carved out the bottom of basically the bottom of the reservoir that we have. And that's where the glacial terminated and finished during the glacial period.
Wheeler performed the hydrologic design of the facility. We did the hydraulic analysis, designed spillways, outlet works, miscellaneous civil features of the project. With any new reservoir construction, you have to do a flood study to make sure the facility is designed to withstand certain rainstorm events. We also had to design a spillway from the reservoir that would ensure that the dam didn't overtop during these flood events. And also, of course, you need an outlet works from the reservoir to be able to release water into the stream system downstream.
The investigation is very important, and you basically take the information you gather there to move forward. During the investigations, we go through and drill a number of holes, 4-inch diameter, drill down into the foundation of the dam, and collect samples to use during design. You do laboratory testing on them to characterize the engineering properties of the various soils.
Late in the day on October 14th, I wasn't notified until the next morning, October 15th. Joe Enzer, our manager at the site, called me up early in the morning and said, "You really need to get up to the site immediately. We found something." He said, "Joe, I'm really busy. Can this wait?" And he goes, "It can't wait. We can't move forward with this project until you come up to the site." I said, "Well, what did you find?" And he said, "Well, we found a mammoth." And he said, "We're pretty sure it's a mammoth, but you need to come up and take a look at this."
On October 15th, Kit Hamby calls and he says, "John, we have a problem." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "We found some bones." And I said, "Send me some pictures." And so he sends me about 8 photos of the bones that they had hit the night before. And I'm looking at these bones and I'm trying to figure out what they are. And I decide to email the bones to some of our archaeologists in our Denver office. And as soon as I send it to them, they come back and they said, "Mammoth." And I said, "What do I do?" And they said, "I don't know." And so I had a friend with the Colorado Geologic Survey. And so I called Peter and I said, "Peter," I said, "I think we hit some bones and we think they're mammoth." I said, "What do I do?" He goes, send me the photos." So I email them to Peter and he looks at them and he goes, "Wow, I think they're a mammoth." I said, "Well, what do I do?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "But I was at a party last week where I was talking to one of the representatives from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, Ian Miller, and he said, I got his card here somewhere." And so he rummages around and he gives me Ian Miller's name and phone number. So I email the pictures to Ian and he comes back and he goes, "Mammoth." And he goes, "I'll have 3 paleontologists in Glenwood Springs tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, and you can take them to the site and show them where all this is."
Of course, when you first hear that, I think the first sense is one of just disbelief. And I had to question Joe 2 or 3 times over the phone before I actually was willing to go up to the site and take a look at this. I jumped in the vehicle, ran up to the site, and it was about 10 minutes away, and the first thing that you start to think about is what impact it's going to have on your project if this is the case, if it is truly a mammoth. You wonder about who you're going to have to notify, who's going to help you exhume this thing from the site. How long will it take? Will someone have jurisdiction over the site, and will this stop the progress in building this dam?
We were having a staff meeting in my office, and my science curator, Dr. Kirk Johnson, received a call from Snowmass Village and said that they had found a mammoth bone. So he relayed that to us, and we thought, okay, we get about one of these a year, that's not a big deal. But in the very same staff meeting a week later, he got a photograph texted to him from the site in which the bulldozer operator and the project manager on site were holding mastodon tusks. And they texted this to us live in my staff meeting. And instantly we knew that this was a find of historic proportions. And literally on the spot, I said, whatever it takes, excavate this site, do the right thing by the science. We'll figure out how to pay for it later. But when the Martians land, you don't worry about the budget. You just go out and deal with the situation.
My initial reaction when I received the call from Kit Hamby of the district that they had found these bones was, well, first surprise. It was not something I was expecting on this project. I suppose it never is. But the other reaction was concern. Of course, from a project management standpoint, you're concerned about the success of the project. So after the call, I wasn't sure that we even had a project. You hear stories that, you know, when these type of discoveries are made, projects are sometimes shut down or significantly delayed. So that caused concern on my part.
The excavation for the site was very unique, given that it was formed by a moraine or a glacier that formed a kettle moraine, and so visually it was just a big hole out there that had filled in with sediments. And so as far as the excavation is concerned, we had to strip off about 5 feet of clay, which was deposited on the surface. And that clay was unique because it actually protected the peat from oxygen, and that's partially why everything was preserved so well. The bottom of the peat layer, we hit our first mammoth, which at first we weren't sure if we were going to be heading home or what was going to happen next, so it got pretty exciting from there. We were able to keep excavating around that got fenced off. As soon as we got below the peat, we were into a silt layer, which was 10 to 15 feet deep, and as soon as we got into the silt, bones just started to pop up everywhere.
The characteristics of the site that make for a good off-channel reservoir site also most likely lent to the creation of the fossil collection in the bottom of the reservoir. This bowl on top of the mountain tended to form a trap for these animals, as the geotechnical engineers described.